It's over. That might mean the Jets' chances to get a win this year. In addition to the game, the Patriots come from way back to stun the Jets. At one point in time, the Patriots had run, 27 offensive plays, and the Jets had run 1 in the fourth quarter. Yikes. Jets were ahead all night. Jets looked like they were in good shape. Jets fall to 0-9. Cam Newton, an efficient 27 of 35, 274, couple of rushing touchdowns. Joe Flacco had a really great first half and then got a third touchdown pass. It looked like the Jets were going to be in very good shape, but then threw an interception on the Jets' first offensive play of the fourth quarter, and that sort of made it a little rickety. Patriots come down and score, then they hold the Jets to a 3-and-out. They get the ball back with about a minute to go, and they kick a field goal as time expires, a 51-yarder from Dick Folk, who, of course, used to be a Jet and now beat the Jets. Amazing. All right, let's get our guys in. Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports senior NFL writer. I'm Eric Casillas. Brian McFadden, our two-time Super Bowl champ. B-Mac, I'll start with you. How am I supposed to feel right now if I'm a Patriot fan?
You need to be happy. You need to be ecstatic. You won a ball game. And we talk about this every week, every Sunday, how difficult it is to win ball games in the National Football League. And for this team to be on a 4-game losing streak, just being able to get back into the winning column is important. It's huge. Now potentially you can turn your season around. We saw energy on the offensive end. We saw Cam Newton perform better. We saw some mishaps from the defense, but in the most important moments of the ball game, the defense made plays. You know, they got an interception, they got that huge sack right before the last drive offensively, where they were able to attempt that game-winning field goal. So you should be excited. I mean, Cam Newton looked pretty good. He looked real good. I think this probably was the best Cam Newton look since week 2 against Seattle. That loss against Seattle in Seattle. So I think you should be excited about what happened tonight, and then going forward, it won't get any easier. You got the Baltimore Ravens coming up, if I'm not mistaken, so that's another opportunity to get better. But tonight you took care of your business. JJ,
they're not any good, though.
Nope.
So how do I feel? I mean, B-Mac just gave me one heck of a pep talk. There's only one problem with that very impassioned speech. They're not any good. I just watched over 60 Minutes. I feel like if I didn't keep scoring, I just watched the game, that over the course of the full 60 minutes, I thought the Jets were better tonight.
Listen, I hear B-Mac loud and clear, and his perspective as a former player is absolutely worth far more than mine. And so when he says they should be ecstatic about breaking this losing streak and all that, I hear you. As a person in the media, as a fan of football, it's hard for me to understand how they can be ecstatic about beating the New York Jets at the buzzer. And it's, Cam did get right. He had a fantastic game. B-Mac, 100% correct. This is his best game since week 2. And week 2 was starting to look a lot like an aberration. Like we had no clue that Cam would ever really come back. And he started creeping back a little bit in that Buffalo game. And that fumble really kind of marred what was a nice little bounce back game from Cam. Now he got it. He got it against a very bad defense. But still, the Jets and Joe Flacco, we didn't think that Flacco was capable of this. This was a 3-touchdown performance from Joe Flacco. A bad interception, but if we're being truthful about it in the fourth quarter, they're probably going to go 3-and-out and punt that ball away about where that interception ended up. So, I'm not going to hold it too much against him. You want to run a little bit more clock off, but what he did in the first half was really impressive. We talked about it at halftime. He's not going to be able to hold that up, but he needs to do something similar to the first half. He more or less did. Again, that interception was really an arm punt, but yeah, if I'm the Patriots, am I ecstatic that we snuck past the Jets? No, but am I happy that we broke our losing streak? Absolutely.
B-Mac, let me follow up, and then we'll get to the Jets side of things. You won a game. Your point is very well taken, as we said. Look, you win a game, you win a game. And you kind of feel like maybe you stole this one a little, which sometimes makes it even more celebratory because you did it over a rival and you kept them winless. But long term, did you see enough signs tonight to think that maybe this is fixable in New England? Or was this, hey, we were a half a head taller than the worst team in football, and that's all this meant.
Yeah, this is not fixable. The issue with the Patriots, guys, based on what I'm seeing, talent, personnel issues on both sides of the football. I mean, look at their division. Buffalo have more talent. The Miami Dolphins have more talent in key positions. I'm not just talking about, the known position, pass catchers and things like that, but just offensive line-wise, defensively, pass rushers. They can't rush the passer. They cannot rush the passer. They got lucky and got a sack late in the fourth quarter. Outside of that, Joe Flacco looked like the Joe Flacco that won a championship with the Baltimore Ravens when he won that crazy good playoff run. The reason why Joe Flacco was successful tonight, he had all day to go through all the progressions that were available for him, including the ones that were on the sideline that were not even involved in the play. You can't put pressure on these quarterbacks. I don't care who you're going against. They're going to find a way to be successful. And because of that, we saw 3 touchdowns from Joe Flacco. So me personally, yes, I really legit feel that way. You need to be happy because you won a ball game. Because if you would have lost to the Jets, good night. The season is over. You won a ball game, but going forward, you can't change the end result because you just missed the trade deadline. You can't trade that amount of the amount of players you need to be able to be relevant and competitive. So you just have to try to make it work with the guys you currently have. But the guys you currently have, talent-wise, you're lacking talent.
Right, that's pretty much, that was it. That's where I want to go. Look, you're happy you won the game, but I don't think any of us think that it's fixable in New England anytime soon. And I don't think any of us think that this team is ultimately going to the playoffs. Jets are 0-9. You get first crack at this way. I'm a Jet fan. How should I feel right now?
Okay, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm a little upset that we didn't pull it out, right? Because I'm a fan and I'm irrational, and I irrationally wanted to beat the New England Patriots, and I really wanted to stick it to them. But then, if I'm a Jets fan, well, if the rational side of me ever kicked in, I would no longer be a Jets fan. But at some point, the rational side of me kicks in, and I say to myself, oh, that's right. We need a change in our franchise. We need to be in position to draft Trevor Lawrence. Here's the thing about Trevor Lawrence. He is such a game changer that whoever gets the first overall pick is not trading it away. So there's no way that the Jets can get Trevor Lawrence if they are picking at number 2 in the NFL draft. So if it's the Jags, if it's the Giants, if it's the Cowboys, if it's any of those teams that are within the realm of possibility to get the number 1 pick, if it's not the Jets can't get him. And so the only way that you can get him is to make sure that you have the worst record in football and win all the tiebreakers. And what the Jets need to do is go 0-16. That's it. And I know
they may not have a choice.
And listen, and I know the players don't want to do that. I fully understand.
Yep.
That's not what tanking is about. But Joe Douglas needs to go out there and put a team together that cannot win. That's it, because Adam Gase is going to coach because he needs to win football games. The man still wants his legacy. He understands he's not going to be there in 2021. So you have to put together a roster that cannot win an NFL game. Joe Douglas tried tonight, and Joe Flacco almost pulled it out. So this was their second best chance to win a game. Their next best chance is going to be Week 17 against the Patriots, but by that point, they could win that game and go 1-15, and folks like the Jags may have already won a second game to make sure that the Jets get the number 1 overall pick.
Well, it would be so New York Jets for them to win at least 2 or 3 ball games to not get Trevor Lawrence. It's almost like the Jets can't even lose the right way, right? I mean, it feels like if you're a Jets fan, and I'm not a Jets fan, I know a lot of Jets fans though, but they feel like they're going to find a way to screw this thing up that they don't get an opportunity to get Trevor Lawrence. And it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, leading into this ball game, talking about the betting odds, I said it would be the New York Jets thing to do, which would be to screw up someone's parlay because they're putting it on the line for the Patriots to win this ball game and cover. Guess what? The Patriots won, but they didn't cover. That's the New York Jets thing to do. So it wouldn't surprise me, Jonathan, to see the Jets just screw it up and not even get Trevor Lawrence because they happen to win too many ball games.
That would surprise me. I just look at that team. I don't know who. B-Mac, I'm one of those, like, I don't talk about no-hitters until you're down to single outs. I don't want to hear about he's throwing a no-hitter through 5 innings.
Yeah,
it's
right.
too early. I don't really talk about 0-16 until you have double-digit losses. I mean, we got to get a little closer for me. But as a player, if you're a Jet, you know people are asking you about it. Everything you're getting is, are you going to go 0-16? Are you going to try and lose? Are you tanking on purpose? How would you feel if you were a New York Jet right now? What's that locker room like? Is it tense? Is it quiet? Is it angry? Is it, well, everyone's playing for their own jobs right now? What's it like to be a Jet right now?
You know what? A little bit all of the above, EK, honestly, because as a player, you have pride, you have self-pride. You want to go out and compete. You want to be relevant, and you want to maintain job security. And the only way you can do that is by being competitive and winning ball games. They haven't been able to do that. We've seen a handful of players, good players, that have been traded away from the organization. That's the first sign that the organization, they're in rebuild mode. Now you're continuing to lose ball games. It's not just about the staff that might be gone next year. A lot of these players, if you're not valuable, if you're not a part of the youthful movement, there's a good chance you could be playing elsewhere in 2021 as well. So it's not a good feeling. Luckily for me, I've never been in this position where you're 0-9. You don't know exactly when you potentially could get a ball game under your belt in the winning column. So it has to be a tough situation to be involved in, but I can tell you this much: from the player standpoint, they're fighting. They're not tanking. They don't want to lose a ball game because of Trevor Lawrence or whoever it is that could be available. They want to win. They just don't have enough talent. They're not good enough right now.
Well, they have Mekhi Becton, who's a player, and I think Denzel Mims is a player. When you watch the game tonight and you're looking at these two teams, did you find anybody that you're looking at and you're like, that guy's a player, that guy's a player on either team? I mean, who's going to be a key part of the solution if and when either team really turns it back around?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, the Jets were missing Quinnen Williams up front. They were missing Mekhi Becton, who went out with that chest injury. That's going to be something to obviously watch. He's the best player that the Jets have. That was a fantastic draft pick by Joe Douglas. And so they're missing their best defensive player. They traded away, actually, before that, their best defensive player to the Seattle Seahawks. And that trade is looking fantastic right now, by the way, getting those 2 firsts for Jamal Adams. Again, moving down that list, a lot of their best players are not there and were not there tonight. In terms of the New England Patriots, Jakobi Myers had a heck of a game. Caught just about everything that was thrown his way. And he and Cam have been working on their rapport the last couple of weeks. It showed tonight. That's a guy that the Patriots have not been able to figure out that wide receiver position. And at some point, Julian Edelman is going to have to move on from this team. Probably should have happened before this season. And I'm not entirely certain that he didn't want to move on when all of his buddies left. But it's not working out with N'Keal Harry. They've missed on some draft picks. A huge mistake letting DK Metcalf pass on him. So I could see a Jakobi Myers sticking around based off of what I've seen the last couple of weeks out of him.
It was less than ideal if you were a Jet fan and you don't want to go 0-16, because tonight was one you had. Tonight was one you felt like you had. This was Charlie Brown trying to kick the football, and they just pulled it out from under you. That's just the way it went. And if you're a Jet fan, I feel bad for you. I mean, you know, you can't change the way you feel. You can't just say, I'm not a Jet fan anymore. You are, and you're trying, and it's not working. Well done, gentlemen, on breaking down the game and the status and state of those two teams. You want more? We have more. You need more BMAC in your life. We got BMAC and Patrick Peterson on the podcast, all things covered. Part of our great family of podcasts. You download, you subscribe, you enjoy. Patriots, Jets, Monday Night Football. Pats on a 4-game losing streak. Cam Newton coming out going, you know, last 3 games haven't been great. Remember, no 200-yard pass games, no touchdown passes. Joe Flacco says, hey, I'm in for Sam Darnold. See what I can do. Early second. Jets down 7-3. Flacco finds Rashard Perriman. 50-yard touchdown. There you go. Jets had only 1 touchdown in their previous 3 games. They match it right there. That's why Flacco had the number 1 finger up. 1 touchdown. There we go. Boy. 20 seconds left in the second. Professional. Jamison Crowder with the toe drag. There you go. They called it incomplete in the field. They reversed it because clearly he's in. The Jets are like, which way do we go? We're ahead at halftime. We're not sure what we do now. Do we still get to go to the locker room? Yeah, you do. Pat scored in the first drive of the second half, but then the Jets come back. Wide open Perriman, his second 15-yard score. Joe Flacco, baby. Feeling it. So you got to come back if you're in New England. And what do you do when you get near the goal line? The big fella. More rushing touchdowns than any quarterback in NFL history. Cam Newton. There we go. We're all tied at 7. So now, after a 3 and out, Pats get the ball back. Fires over the middle. There you go. Jakobi Myers with the catch. That puts him in field goal range. Nick Folk, ex-Jet, trying to beat the old mates. It's right down the middle. Yikes. Unbelievable. Patriots win 30-27. They snapped the 4-game losing streak. Cam Newton's like, oh, thank God I didn't lose to the Jets. I didn't want to be the one. Let it be somebody else, please. Well, and maybe nobody, because they're now 0-9. Oof. Look at that. Cam, very efficient night with the 27-35, 274. Also, not 1, but 2 rushing touchdowns. Joe Flacco with a very good night. Most of that damage in the first half. Did have the 1 touchdown pass in the second half. That interception was in the fourth quarter. The first offensive play they ran in the fourth quarter. That certainly hurt. Jets do cover. The spread over comes in. A lot more points than projected. Remember, the Jets, they hadn't cracked and gone over 10 in their previous 4 games. They get 27 tonight, largely in part because Flacco gets that 262 with the 3 touchdowns. Brashard Perriman, 5 for over 102. And look at Jakobi Myers. 14 targets, dozen grabs, $169. Very well done by the Patriots, who ultimately get a win. Let's get Chris Towers in the mix, figure out what's what, as I usually do in these circumstances. What did we learn from this game? Patriots, you can't really trust what they do running. A lot of Rex Burkhead, a little Damian Harris looked good, but then got hurt. You saw different guys step up at wide receiver. It was Jakobi Myers. It was Brashard Perriman, although Mims looked good. What did you take away from this one?
Yeah, I think the only takeaway that you can get from the offensive side on either of these two teams is Jakobi Myers is the #1 receiver for the New England Patriots. Julian Edelman, he's going to be out at least a couple more weeks after his knee surgery. They traded for Isaiah Ford from the Dolphins. I like him a little bit as a slot prospect, but Jakobi Myers was someone who in training camp of the 2019 season drew a lot of praise, didn't really make a huge impact last season, but you look at a per target basis, he was 8.8 yards per target. That's pretty good even in a limited role. So, I'm not necessarily convinced he's going to be a great NFL player, but given the paucity of talent on this offense, he's got 14 targets this week, 10 last week. If he's going to keep being the #1 guy, I think he's going to be someone who fantasy players, if you're desperate at wide receiver, if you're in a deeper league, 3 wide receiver league, maybe you need a flex, Jakobi Myers could be in that conversation moving forward. So I think that's the biggest takeaway from this one. The other takeaway I have is just this Patriots defense is not good right now. I know they're missing a lot of key players who they should be getting back soon, but you look back at the start of the season, this Patriots defense was one of the ones that we were looking at and saying, you can't start your fringe guys against them. Your best players are going to struggle. Now, Joe Flacco just lit them up. It's not 2014. So if that's happening, then this defense is bad. And what that tells me is you can't really predict how a team defense is going to look 4, 5, 8 weeks down the road. So when you start looking at your playoff matchups right now, which a lot of people are doing for fantasy, don't worry about the matchups. Don't worry about the defenses. Just make sure you have your best players. Try to make sure that you have healthy players at that time. Don't worry about those matchups. The Patriots show us you can't really predict that stuff.
Hey, I want the Patriots to be on my schedule if I'm in the fantasy playoffs. I mean, that's where we are. I mean, I think you're right with the defenses. I think both defenses, neither of them are rosterable in any format at this point in time. You were very nice about the way you said it with Jakobi Myers, saying if you're desperate and you might need a flex, then he's in the conversation of somebody, which is probably what I would have said in terms of the conclusion. I would have basically just said, look, he's going to catch some passes and yards, but he's not going to be able to find the end zone with a map because it's 4 straight weeks without a touchdown pass from Cam Newton. Let's finish up with Cam Newton because he's really the interesting guy on each team. What do you do there? Like, is he just a backup? In a good matchup, would you play him? Because he seems to find the end zone with his legs every week, but not really with his arms. I understand it may depend upon how your league scores, 4 points or 6 points for a touchdown pass, but where do you have Newton right now?
I think he's in like the 12 to 18 range. The problem is there are actually like 12 quarterbacks in the 12 to 18 range on any given week. The position is so deep and the bar to be a top 10 quarterback right now is so high. I think it's 9 quarterbacks are averaging 25 fantasy points per game. We just had 8 score 30 fantasy points in week 10 or week 9. So he's definitely not someone who, if you have him as your quarterback, you're just set for the rest of the season. I'm okay with streaming in most leagues. If you're in a 12-team league, you can probably find someone every week. There's going to be a Derek Carr, Tua Tagovailoa against the Chargers next week. There's going to be someone who you can feel comfortable streaming. So if you like Cam Newton's matchup in any given week, he's an okay starter, but I have no problem dropping him and looking for the next thing on waivers.
Chris, excellent. Thanks, bud. Appreciate the thoughts and the time.
Thank you.
Chris, part of our family of guys getting it done. Fantasy Football Today, one of the great podcasts we have. Look, we don't take all day. We do it in 5. That's right. You download, you subscribe, you enjoy.